Ajit. Hi, Harsh. Also, while you're giving us a yes, just let me know your name and the city that you're from. My name is Aparna, and I'm going to be your host for today. You're going to understand what's coming up uh, in the project management field and how you should navigate your career around challenges. Yes, Angela from Vegas. We've got, okay, there are a lot of you. Yes, Ajit, Prashant from Hyderabad, Mary from Philippines, Madhu from Bangalore as well. Great to have you, Madhu. Nimit from Noida, Ashraf from Canada. Okay, okay, amazing. Kundan from Mumbai, Gayatri from Chennai. Nice to have you guys. Yes. Hello, okay. Suvrat from Delhi. Okay, Ben comes from Ivory Coast. Nice to have you, Ben. Also, people on YouTube, just leave us a hi. We're streaming on YouTube as well. So in case you're watching us from there, just leave us a hi. Let us know your name and the city that you come from. Okay, great. Kaushik is from Guwahati. Brian is from South Africa as well. Brian with an I. Okay. Kiran from Hyderabad. Okay, nice to have you guys. Nice to have you here on a weekday morning or an evening. It's great to see the enthusiasm. Okay, amazing, amazing. Thanks so much for your introductions. Like I said, my name is Aparna, and this is going to be your agenda for today. You're going to understand what are the challenges and how you should navigate your project management career path in 2024. Okay, so you're also going to be understanding how the PMP certification training that we offer works. And to guide you through the session, we have got Bryan. I will introduce him to you very, very soon. But I'm still looking for your introductions. For people on YouTube, if you can hear me and see me, please let me know your names and the city that you're from. I'm sure you're able to hear me there. Okay. Nivedita from Bangalore, Sridhar Raja from Dubai. Nice to have you guys. Great, great, great. So quick ground rules before we get started. You know the usual drill. If you have a question, please put it on the Q&A box. Do not use the chat box as you might miss these questions. Use the Q&A box for specific questions on whatever you have about PMP certification or choosing project management as a career path or whatever that is. Please use the Q&A box and we will address that towards the end of the session. Okay. Now, in case you missed something in the session, let's say you lost your network, you couldn't hear what Bryan said, do not worry, you will receive the recording and the certificate in the next 24 to 48 hours if you've stayed till the end of the session. So there's a poll that goes live towards the end that collects your full name. So make sure you stay till the end, and that's how you'll receive the recording and the certificate that you can post on LinkedIn or any other social platform. Okay. Right. So now that we have understood what you're going to learn and the ground rules, are you clear with the ground rules? Give me a quick yes so that we can get started. Yes. Okay. Amazing. Let's see. Let me know your name and the city. I was just checking for people on YouTube. Just leave us a message so that I know you're there. And also, if you have questions, please leave it on the live chat. I will pass it on to Bryan towards the end. Okay, amazing. All of you are clear, and someone has given me a thumbs up as well. Okay, great. Thank you so much, guys, for your response. Before we start, let me quickly introduce Simplilearn. So Simplilearn offers digital skills for you to upskill and choose better career opportunities across different domains, and project management being one of them. So there are also certifications in the other sectors, Agile and Scrum. We also have certifications in the IT service field. You can also choose, in-depth long courses in the other tech domains as well. So you can head on to Simplilearn.com and check out our courses and see whichever course best suits you. Okay. But today the focus is going to be PMP certification training, and we'll help you understand how that's going to be useful for you to kickstart your project management career. Right. So now that I've introduced Simplilearn, let me introduce our expert to you today. Bryan has got 25 years of project and program management experience, and he's been an agile transformation coach for years now. So Bryan, over to you, and you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Well, thanks so much, Parna. And it's great to be here. So exciting to see people from around the world joining us. It's great to see all the folks that have an interest in this topic. I think this is a really interesting topic, and I think there's a lot to cover in here. So yeah, a little bit about me. So as you can see, I've been working in this domain for, starting to measure it in decades now. So over 25 years project program management experience. I do a lot of work with Project Management Institute, if you're familiar with that, and one of its core reference documents, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge. I've worked with and helped contribute to that, and also contribute a lot to the exam questions and certifications that people take through the PMI. So pretty strong background in this space, but just as Aparna said, I also do a lot of work in the Agile domain. That's an area that's getting a lot of interest with organizations around the world in different industries and different sizes. So spend a lot of time helping organizations make shifts towards more agile practices and behaviors. And it's great to see everyone from around the world. I'm in Houston, Texas. So it's about 10:30 in the morning here. It's a beautiful day in Texas. So that's it for me. Aparna, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Bryan. Just so that Bryan understands your profile better, I'm going to launch a quick poll. And this time I'm also going to ask a question for you to answer on the chat. But firstly, the poll. So let us know what your work experience is by answering this poll question. How much experience do you carry? Okay. So, and people on YouTube, you could use the live chat. YouTube is strangely quiet today. So if you're watching us on YouTube, just interact with us. Do not hesitate to leave your questions or whatever it is that you have in your mind on the live chat. And also make sure you engage in the session so that you take away, use the session to the best possible way. Yes. Okay, so another 30 seconds for the poll to go live. If you guys have answered the poll, no, don't use the live chat, guys. Use the poll. Use the poll. The screen is not black. Kundan, you could probably rejoin and check your network is a problem. Okay. So everyone else who has answered this question, I would want you to just add one sentence about what do you expect from the session? I mean, what is it that you want to learn? Just leave that on the chat if you've answered the poll. Yeah, great. So I want you to answer, what is it that you want to learn through this session? Yeah, maybe a little more specific. Yeah, okay. And make it a bit faster, right? Okay. Career options in PMP, learn about career path in PMP. Okay, nutshell, PMP in a nutshell. Okay, job opportunities as a PM in healthcare. Specific questions. Okay. Great. What's the latest in Agile? Okay, great. All of you do have some goal in mind today, which is great. And I hope that you stay till the end of the session to make sure that your questions and whatever your concerns are addressed. Okay, great. So I'm going to end the poll here and also share the results with Bryan. You're able to see the results, Brian?
Yep, yeah, looks great.
Yeah, yeah. So most of them are, really experienced. They've got more than 10 years, and someone on YouTube wants to understand how can they become a finance professional and also be a project manager in the finance field. Okay, so yeah, those are some expectations out of the session. Over to you, Brian, now.
Yeah, Bill, looks
Yeah.
that's really helpful to get some sense of what's bringing people here today. I think we're going to cover a fair amount of those topics. Don't forget, like Aparna mentioned, if you do have some additional questions, please use the Q&A, and I will do my best to monitor that throughout our session and provide some responses. But yeah, let's dig into things, Aparna. Let's take a closer look at what's involved in being a project manager. So it's always good, I find, to kind of just start with what is a project manager, what do they do? And you'll quickly see from this list, it's a very broad range of responsibilities. Of course, not a big surprise. What do? They plan projects. So they make sure that we understand things like the goals of the project, what outcome is expected from the work we're going to perform, the scope, so what fits into the need or what it is we're going to be delivering against those goals, and timelines and resources. So what are we going to need to meet those project objectives? And you'll often find as a project manager, there's two general questions you tend to get asked. How much is it going to cost and when will it be done? So this is a big part of a project manager's responsibilities. But it's actually a little deeper than that. So in addition to understanding sort of what it is we're trying to do and how we're going to organize to deliver that, you're going to be very close to the teams doing the work. So project managers often need to have a really rich set of skills. They can coordinate work across different teams. Oftentimes these can be cross-functional teams, so different kind of expertise. Sometimes you're working with the requirements analysts, other times developers and engineers, testers. These are some classic roles, but it could be any number of other types of skills and roles that we have in a project. So as a project manager, you're really working with people a great deal. And then along the way, as we kind of get things rolling, get a team kind of organized, deliver work, we have to monitor our progress. So how are we tracking to the goals of the project? You're going to get that question asked quite a bit, particularly if it's a longer term project. If this is a project that's going to take a year, maybe 2 years, there's going to be a lot of interest, particularly from people that are kind of paying the bills, the key stakeholders, on where are you? How are you progressing against these goals? What percentage complete are you? How are you tracking to things like your budget, to that schedule, and even to quality that is sort of agreed to for the project? Other areas that you're going to spend time on are risk management. Okay, there's lots of things that could impact the ability for a project to get completed, particularly around its budget and its schedule. So identifying those potential risks, finding ways to mitigate those becomes really important. And then finally, what we want to do is make sure we're engaging with our stakeholders. So making sure we understand who it is that's interested in the project, that has some kind of stake in the project. And sometimes this is very clear, right? These are people that are going to be using maybe the product that we're building out. But there could be people that are also sort of on the periphery. Maybe it's someone in accounting. They're interested in understanding how you're tracking from a budget perspective. So that's another example of a stakeholder. So as you can clearly see as a project manager, there's a very wide range of responsibilities that we're be focusing on. And a big part of this is communication. You're going to be connecting with people and kind of giving them updates and understanding what it is they need. So this is an area that if you've got sort of strong sort of personal skills, you'll often find project management is a place that you can really get a lot from investing some of your time and directing your career around. All right. So now that we've got some sense of what a project manager does, you'll be happy to hear there's some ways in which you can demonstrate you've got some expertise in this domain. So the key, kind of the big standard certification available for project managers is the PMP, and that stands for Project Management Professional. This is a globally recognized certification. It is recognized not just in different countries around the world, but different industries, different organizational sizes. Every large organization has some, PMPs within its structure. And it's provisioned or offered by the Project Management Institute, the PMI. So the PMI has been in this domain for many, many years, decades, in fact, and they've given a lot of thought to what goes into effective project management, and it really focuses on sort of three key areas: ways of working, which is how do we bring people together, make sure that they're delivering the things expected around the project, those project goals, the scope, the outcome. Core project management competencies. So these are sort of the things I mentioned earlier around risk management and schedule management, budget management. These are core competencies that project managers need to possess. And then strategic and business knowledge. So it's not just that project managers know how to organize work and get teams aligned to that work to deliver something, but it's also that deeper understanding of what business domain are we trying to support? What strategic direction are we trying to help the organization move towards? So PMPs often need to bring in a lot of good knowledge about the business domain and the industry that the project's being delivered in. So with that, what are some things that will help us with their PMP certification? Well, getting a PMP really helps you get better at managing projects. So if you are currently working as a project manager and you don't have your PMP, you're going to get a lot from getting your certification. It's going to help you get a much stronger framework on how to manage your projects. It's going to help you kind of have a structure and processes that you can reference. So I know even when I took my PMP, which was many, many, many years ago now, I'd been actually working as a project manager for a number of years. In fact, there was a part of me that thought, well, I've been doing it so long as a project manager, why would I need a certification? Well, as it turns out, actually, taking that certification was really illuminating. I first off recognized there was lots of project management that I really didn't fully understand or appreciate or really just hadn't applied. So it became really helpful for me just to get that bigger sense of sort of what the framework is and what some of these processes are. And the other thing it really helped me with, and this is a struggle, I think, for a lot of project managers, is oftentimes we tend to think of it sort of one size fits all. You've got to do all the project management processes and practices to be a good project manager. And it turns out one of the things you learn in PMP is that you have to actually right size the way in which you're going to apply your project management practices to the domain, to the organization that is managing the project. And that became very helpful as well. So even if you are doing project management today and you feel like you're pretty strong in it, you'll get a lot from certification. The other thing that the PMI has been recognizing is a lot of organizations are focusing less on sort of the role of a project manager and sort of saying, hey, we've got this dedicated specialist that manages projects, and rather recognizing everyone in the organization needs to have these skills because we use them all the time. So this is another opportunity, even if you're not perhaps actively defined as a project manager, you get a lot from the certification because organizations now just expect everyone to have these skills because that's just how we can work effectively together. So once you have that, of course, it's going to open doors for you. You'll certainly see a lot more career opportunities. Having that PMP is usually sort of a requirement, particularly if you're interested in going into the project management career path a little deeper. And then, of course, there's some good news on the salary front. PMP certified professionals do tend to get higher average salaries. You can see 123,000 a year. That's not too bad. And then in addition, it's a very portable certification. So not only is it recognized around the world, but as I mentioned, different industries. So you can be a PMP working in healthcare and easily make the transition over to high tech because you've got this foundation to draw upon. All right, and now we've got kind of our certification. So what kind of things are you going to be doing as a project manager? Well, there's really kind of, four primary areas we talked a little bit about earlier. You're going to really help provide clear objectives and planning. This is actually probably the most important part of a project manager's role, is to provide clarity. A lot of times the teams you're working with might not fully understand sort of the intent, the purpose, the reason they're doing the work. So making sure you're taking that project scope, you're making sure it's well defined, identifying goals that will support that scope, and then communicating it, helping the team, helping stakeholders understand what it is we're trying to achieve. And that allows the people doing the work, teams, to organize themselves to deliver on those outcomes. We talked about risk mitigation. This is such an important area. In fact, it's so important you can specialize in risk mitigation. PMI actually has certification paths for people that just want to manage and focus on risk. This can be very important if you think of a very large initiative. I do a lot of work in the oil and gas industry. Some of their projects, when they're building these very large, complex, floating drilling rigs that they're going to set up in the middle of the ocean and drill, miles or kilometers through the ocean into the earth to pull out oil. Those can often be big investments, upwards of $5 billion, even $10 billion. They can take many, many years to kind of build out and get implemented. So they often have people that are just dedicated to identifying risks and ensuring that those are being appropriately managed. Resource management. So a lot of times projects do have resources that you've got to coordinate. If you work in the construction industry, right, you're bringing in all sorts of, cement and rebar and all the things that go into a large, complex construction project. So managing those resources and making sure they're being optimized in addition to the people doing the work. And then finally, really emphasizing collaboration. A big part of the Agile community recognizes that at the end of the day, it's about the people doing the work. So finding ways in which we can get people to interact effectively, collaborate together, becomes really important to ensuring our project success. All right. And then, oh, yeah, so this is really interesting. I think this is a great time to have some conversations about not just project management, but what kind of things might be affecting project management. So I think it's a really exciting time to consider being a project manager. I know when I looked at this path, 25, almost 30 years ago now, I mean, it looked very different. In those days, I think we had a sense that we could really kind of map out and kind of define what things would look like and build out a schedule and adhere to it. And I think there's a recognition now that, look, things are moving too fast for that. We've got to be responsive and adaptive. And some good indications of that are things like AI. We've heard a lot about AI. Where does AI fit into this? And AI is unquestionably going to have an impact on the project management domain. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool to harness. A really good example of how you can leverage this, I was actually using it just the other day. The Project Management Institute has its own AI chat function, just like ChatGPT, and it just centers itself primarily around the project management domain. So, I needed some guidance for some of our testers on large projects. So I said, what things should go into a test plan? And it just kind of provided to me a really good starting point to help our test QA teams get working on their test plan. So these tools are available. You're going to see so many changes coming down the path on how to use AI and leverage more of these digital tools. So I think it's really an exciting opportunity to start getting ahead of this, because let me tell you, it's very early days. What you're seeing now is sort of the worst AI will ever be. It's just going to progressively get better and better. So you have a wonderful opportunity to get in front of that curve and become the expert. And it's really just a question of sort of learning about this, looking for ways to apply it. And I can promise you every organization is going to view that as incredibly valuable. Other topics that we're recognizing are going to be very important as a project manager, working for the remote and hybrid teams. Okay, when we have teams that are both on-site or working remotely, virtually, how do we coordinate work across those different individuals and ensure that work that they're performing is sort of aligned and that they have effective ways of collaboration? I deal with this all the time. I don't have any teams, and I haven't for many, many years, that just work together in one location. They're all distributed. And that does introduce some new challenges, right? How do we, in the old days, it was a lot easier, we could meet over a coffee, we could chat, we could hear what was going on over the weekend, learn a little bit about the people we work with. Those opportunities don't exist anymore. As a project manager, looking for ways in which you can bring people together so they can kind of develop that foundation of trust so they know more about each other, and that allows them to work more effectively. So that's another space that we're seeing a lot of interesting work developing around. Agility, you've heard me talk about agility. Agile is sort of a little bit of the secret sauce that goes into making really effective, high-performing project delivery teams. But we have to balance agility with some of that structured project management. Okay, so agility really puts a lot of emphasis on bringing people together and collaboration. But at the end of the day, we're still going to have stakeholders saying things like, how much is this going to cost? When will it get done? So some of that structure is still important. Finding the right way to balance that is sort of a key part of being an effective project manager. Sustainability and ESG, environmental, social, governance compliance. Increasingly, we're hearing a lot of interest in that, right? I mean, you can't, open a web browser on a news site or look at a newspaper or magazine without hearing something about these different topics. So as a project manager, ensuring that these are represented in your project plan and that there's awareness and that you're working towards any compliance goals becomes really important. And then finally, how do we address talent shortages and resource management? It's really challenging right now. I'm working for an organization, they're a smaller company, and they're trying to hire IT people. And it's incredibly difficult because a lot of the IT people are going to these very, very, very large organizations. And they have a certain appeal to people trying to get into these fields. So, how do we address that? What creative ways as a project manager can you find to kind of bring the right talent in and manage this in this high growth environment we find ourselves working in? All right. So lots of exciting challenges, but opportunities to address them all. All right. So if at this point you're still with us saying, hey, this sounds interesting, I want to take the next step. So what kind of things can I pursue? Well, the foundation really for all this is the PMP professional. This is literally the gold standard for project management. This is project manager. This is an area you're interested in pursuing. This is probably the best place to begin. Once you've established that, I think there's lots of other certifications that become available. A good one is that Agile Certified Practitioner, which pairs very nicely with the PMP. They're both offered by the PMI. Now, one thing that makes the Agile Certified Practitioner a little bit different than other ones you might have heard of, like the Certified Scrum Master, as an example, is that the ACP focuses on all the different Agile practices versus the Scrum specific ones are going to logically focus on just Scrum. So the ACP is a little broader view on what goes into Agile, pairs nicely with PMP. And then, of course, there's lots of industry specific certifications. So if you really want to kind of emphasize a particular industry, then you can explore options to kind of give you those industry certifications. Other things you're going to want to think about are things like project management software. So there is a plethora of products that are available out there right now. Probably the more dominant in the industry are tools like Jira and Azure DevOps. Many of you on the call probably come across these already. Of course, there's Microsoft Project. And then there's lots of other products like Trello and Monday and ClickUp. In fact, there's probably dozens out there, and all of which are going to be really valuable as a project manager to organize work, making sure that work is sort of described appropriately, that it's assigned, that you can track progress against. So as a PM, you're going to definitely have to lean on and leverage these tools. Finding ways to strengthen your leadership and communication skills. Project managers have to not only bring a lot of the technical skills, some of which are in the process domain, sort of the framework that you're going to use, but soft skills, have that ability to kind of, connect with people and to have, good discussions and powerful conversations. And then finally, learning more about ESG and sustainability practices. There's a lot of interest in organizations in those particular spaces, and getting familiar with these ideas and just kind of reading up on the literature is going to really help position yourself for success in the future.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Bryan.
Yeah.
These insights, I think we'll now head to understanding one more thing about the audience as to what is stopping them from becoming a project management professional or an expert in project management. So I'm going to launch another quick poll, and you are yeah, here you go. So people on YouTube as well, you could answer this question. Someone asking me about the recording. Okay, so people on YouTube, you could just go back to the beginning of the live stream to see what happened. But right now, you could answer this question as to what is exactly your roadblocker in becoming a project management expert, okay? Or an in-demand project manager. What do you think you lack? And I'm going to keep the poll live for another 30 seconds. See what's exactly stopping you. Yes, so other questions about where to get your PMP certificate and all of that, we're still going to talk about that in the next segment of the session. But for now, it's all about understanding what skills you need and what's coming up in the project management field. Okay, great. Great. So only half of you have responded. It'd be great if the other half also quickly, clicks on whatever option seems the most appropriate to you. Okay. Okay, I think I'll end the poll here, but make sure the next time I launch a poll, you finish answering in a minute so that we are actually spending time in helping you get those insights actually, right? So I'm sharing these results again, Brian, so you could see that, half of them feel that they don't have the practical exposure they need to become a project manager, and then some of them feel their work schedule doesn't allow, or they don't find a course that has a comprehensive curriculum. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing your responses. Now, for solving these problems, you need to be trained for, attempting the PMP certification exam. So that's where our PMP certification training comes into picture. And just a quick summary about what this training entails. We'll talk about the curriculum and all of that in a bit, but you'll get 35 contact hours with live virtual classes from expert. And these 35 contact hours are mandatory for you in order to appear for the PMP certification exam. So that is how this training is key. And along with that, you are able to understand, how project management can be done through AI with masterclasses on generative AI, right? And so you also, along with this training, you get hands-on practice with 12 simulation tests, practice tests, and also question banks that'll just help you prepare better for the PMP test. Okay. So all of this is offered by us, Simplilearn, who is one of PMI's largest partner, India's largest partners, right? So all of this in the PMP certification training. Now, the eligibility for this, there's no eligibility to join the certification training, but we'll talk about the eligibility to write the PMP certification exam and also eventually get your certificate. We'll talk about that in a while, but no prerequisites as such to attend this course. Okay. So your delivery mode, as in you're going to receive this training through online mediums, through live classes from PMP certified trainers. Okay. So that's just a bit about how the training is structured. So I'm going to have Bryan, if you can please take them through what the course has.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple things too is we're talking a bit about this certification. One thing that I see a number of people are asking some questions about, and these are great questions, is there work experience required? So just like Aparna said, taking this course, there are no prerequisites. Anyone can take the course. To take the certification exam and get your PMP certification, there are some requirements that the PMI specifies. So you can go to the PMI website. They will give you the exact details, and we will certainly explain them when you take the PMP course. But if you already have a degree, for example, any bachelor's degree, the expectations, I believe, and I might have to check myself, I believe it's 4,500 hours of project management work-related experience. So that could be working as part of a team. So you're on a couple projects, you got exposure to sort of what's involved in delivering project. If you don't have a degree, I believe the number of hours goes up. I think it might be, again, around 7,500 hours. So the expectation is if you don't have a degree, you're going to have to demonstrate a little bit more work experience in the project management domain. So when you submit your application, you submit an application kind of describing your experience and background, and then you get approved to take the exam, then you take the exam, and then after those things are completed, you become a PMP. So what are we going to cover when we look at, how do we get you ready to take that exam? Well, the first thing we want to do outside of, kind of covering the course itself is really get people comfortable with the business environment that they're going to be delivering their projects around. And this is a really important part of this. Project managers are there to deliver something of value. And you can only deliver something of value by understanding the business environment that the work is being performed in. So as a project manager, you're going to really need to understand what's the outcome from this project, what value we're going to deliver, what's the business environment that we're delivering this in. Once you have that established, you understand sort of the scope, the boundaries, the goals, the outcomes, then we can really step in and start planning and leading the project. So you're going to hear about things like a project charter, building out a project charter, which kind of acts as sort of the North Star, the lighthouse by which we're going to guide the project. Once we've got that well understood, agreed to, and our stakeholders sort of aligned, we'll then think about how do we pull together a team to deliver this project? How do we support team performance? What can we do to kind of have teams shift through that forming, norming, storming, and then finally performing phases that all teams have to progress through? And once we've successfully completed the project and kind of high-fiving with its successful delivery, we're going to close things out. We're going to make sure we close out things like our POs and make sure invoices have been processed and maybe release people back to the areas that they had originally been supporting when the project's finished. We do have some PMI learning objectives, so we're going to walk through what those look like and make sure you're well prepared to take certification. And then, of course, there's a whole collection of really strong online video lectures. You heard Aparna sort of mention one of the big strengths that Simplilearn offers is it's got great practice exams that not only represent what you can expect to take when you take your certification, but also do things like give you a time that you're taking it and make sure that once you finish the exam, it'll give you some highlights on focus areas that you can kind of improve in. So I think that's one of the best parts of the Simplilearn PMP offering.
Great. Thanks, Bryan, for taking them through the curriculum. Now, also, some people had this question as to whether they are the right person to take this course or, eventually get PMP certified. So maybe there are also some questions in the Q&A box asking if they should actually be a project manager right now to be eligible for this, or is it enough if they have project management experience? Maybe this slide is relevant to all those people.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. So I think it's a fair question to ask. I think most of the people in the call we saw had a reasonable amount of experience, 5 years, 10 years, which immediately tells us they're all strong candidates for taking this certification. Now, if you're a little earlier in your career, okay, maybe you just got your degree and you're excited about kind of pursuing a project management path, there's actually still an opportunity for you. There's another project management certification, which is the Certified Associate Project Management Certification. This is a CAP-M. And that's sort of a starting point. So you don't need as much experience. You're still going to learn all the same concepts. And it's kind of the entry point to get your formal PMP. But for those that have more experience, you can see that there's a wide range of different roles that would obviously get benefit from this. Clearly, being a project manager, if you're a project manager today and you don't have your PMP, I think I'd really challenge you a little bit to say, I think you need to step into that a little bit more. I think you need to kind of really represent, get the PMP certification, demonstrate that you can really take these concepts, you've got a framework, and apply them to the work you're already doing. So I think it's a great fit if you already are doing some project management. If you're working as an associate assistant project manager, again, depending on your experience, you could explore the CAP-M, which is one path, or if you've got sufficient experience, yeah, get your certification. Team leads, team managers. As I mentioned before, the PMI has definitely recognized that these skills are being used across the enterprise. So you don't have to have the title of a project manager to really need to understand and know how to apply these different kind of skills. So if you're a team manager or team lead, you're going to get a lot from this. If you're a project executive, well, project executives are often living in the domain of projects. So of course, you're going to get a lot from having a project manager certification. Software developers, many software developers find themselves working on projects. So getting some familiarity, understanding of what is going on with the work you're performing relative to the other processes that the project management domain sort of emphasizes. So getting understanding that, and it gives you a pathway. You know, you might discover, hey, after a while, I've done a lot of software development. Now I want to try something a bit different. This gives you a path to kind of explore there. So lots of different candidates here. I'm going to put some links to help people understand what the experience is that's needed, just so you can feel a little bit more comfortable about that. But they're outside of that, though, I think really anyone is who's interested in project manager, if you tend to think in kind of you're a little bit more structured, you really focus on getting things done, this is probably a good space for you to kind of spend some time in.
Yeah. And of course, keeping in mind the eligibility criteria that PMI lays down for becoming PMP certified. Yeah. Great. So now that you've understood how the whole process is, let's just understand, the enrollment steps into the process. So it's pretty straightforward because it's a certification training. All you have to do is to head on to our course page, find out whichever cohort is the best suited to you. You can choose a weekend cohort or a weekday cohort, and then eventually enroll, right? So that's step number one. I mean, if you're interested in enrolling, you could do that directly right away. Okay. Or what you could do is express your interest through the polls. I'm also going to leave the link to the course page here for you guys to explore and understand more about the course. But while I do that, you can also express your interest in the program here through this poll. So I've launched a poll on Zoom which says, would you like to enroll in the program? Now, what happens when you say yes on the poll here is that someone who's a learning advisor contacts you, helps you understand your training options, about the certification, and any other question, basically, anything about the fees, everything else the learning advisor would be able to answer. So please use the poll to express your interest. But in case you are interested in enrolling directly, you can just take a look at the training options here. So if you can see class schedules, you'll be able to see that there's one coming up on the 28th of October. And also there's one weekday cohort starting tomorrow. So yeah, you've got a lot of schedules. I mean, you've got cohorts, a lot of cohorts to choose from. So just head to the course page and find whichever works the best for you. Okay. And I think while we keep the poll live, I will just pass on no questions exactly from YouTube, but I think one question that came in from Akshata was on how can she exactly use project management in the finance field. So that was her question. Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing about the project management domain is it crosses different industries and functional areas, very consistently. So yeah, if you're in the finance field and you've got some large, let's pretend you've got a big ERP, enterprise resource planning solution. I saw someone had a SAP background and wanted to know how PMP would help with that. Yeah, it's going to give you framework in which you can say, okay, we got this ERP coming in. What kind of goals do we have for this? What is going to tell us that this has been a successful implementation? And these, you'll get a whole, collection of techniques you can leverage: stakeholder analysis, requirements management, schedule development, budgeting. All these are things that go into implementing something like an ERP in a finance area. Or maybe you have some other, maybe you're leveraging some of these AI tools we've been hearing so much about to maybe streamline, automate some of your finance functions. Well, guess what? You'll still need someone in the capacity for project manager to kind of coordinate that work and bring the right people together to ensure that what's being built is actually going to deliver the outcomes that whoever's approving that project, that investment is looking for. So yeah, if you're in the finance industry, there are lots and lots of finance project managers with deep specialties in the space. In fact, you could argue it's an industry in and of itself because it's such an important part of how particularly large organizations need to organize and kind of manage their finances. So yeah, lots of opportunity in that space.
Got it. Thanks, Brian. Would you also want to take the other questions that are there here? What's recommended for no prior project management experience for beginners or freshers? Yeah, I think you answered that.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think as I mentioned, if you've never done project management, but you've got a lot of experience, I think someone mentioned they had 20 years, 23 years of service management experience in IT, wanted to make the move into the project management domain. Yeah, that's great. In fact, the PMP is really oriented around people with that kind of background. They've got lots of practical, real world experience. Now they want to make that shift into maybe the project management career lane. Wonderful. You're a strong candidate for this. Now, you just graduated, as we mentioned. Well, there is a path. It's called the CAPM. We're not looking at that certification right now on the Simplilearn site, but it is something available that Simplilearn offers. And,
Yes.
and that's sort of a gateway into this PMP certification. So that's another path that you can consider.
Got it. And then someone else, okay, where can I start if I get PM certification? Okay, I'm mentioning it into the first time, but he has natural passion for planning, organizing, and executing projects.
Yeah, if you've got a natural passion, and some people do sort of lean this way naturally, then this is a great fit for you.
Yeah.
What I can share is that when organizations are making a decision to bring on someone in a project management capacity, you can probably appreciate, if you were a hiring manager, what are you going to look for? You're going to look for someone who can demonstrate either they've been doing this a lot, or if they haven't, a certification. And this is, I do a lot of certification training. With many, many different certifications. I would say the PMP certification is probably one of the more challenging ones to get on the market. Now, that's not, great news from a learner perspective, because you're going to have to work real hard and take these training courses and prepare for the exam. But from an employer's perspective, it's actually really valuable, right? Because they can feel confident that if you say you've got your PMP, they can say, well, gee whiz, this person's really worked hard to get that. That's not something you give out that anyone can get, just mail in, sort of an email and get a certification. You've got to earn this. So I think getting a PMP certification, particularly again, if you have not kind of made that transition into the project management domain, you don't have a lot of experience to draw upon, this is going to be a kind of your golden ticket to say, hey, I know how to do this, and I've earned this really challenging certification.
Yeah, got it. Someone is asking if Simplilearn offers. Yes, so Simplilearn does offer the CAPM as well. Just head to all courses, project management, and then you will find the other courses in the domain. So otherwise, if you're looking for PMP certification, then the poll is the best place to express your interest. Okay, that's Abidola's answer. Where do I start for PMP? Do I start directly studying? You've got no experience. How do you go about studying for PMP? That's the
Okay,
question.
so yeah, I'm just scrolling through. So someone's asking, how would I go about getting this certification? I'm starting from scratch. Well, this is why training becomes really important because, and I think I might have shared this with you originally, and this was many, many years ago. I'd been a project manager. I thought, how hard can this be? So I just, it's funny when I look about it now. I just took the certification exam and I didn't really go to any training. And fortunately, I got my certification and it was all good. And then I learned, actually, it was through Simplilearn. They said, hey, could you start, helping us teach this? So then I had to get really deep into the project management product knowledge. Oh my gosh, there was so much in it. I still reference it all the time. Honestly, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me was simply reaching out saying, could you teach this? Because one of the things when you start teaching, you really have to know the material and topic. So that so helped me in terms of strengthening this. So if you are starting from scratch, my guidance would be, yes, take a course. That is so important because it gives you kind of frame of reference and you can avoid the challenges I had to kind of work through. You'll have someone guiding you, sharing with you, sort of, here's parts of this material that's really important. Let's help you get ready to take that certification exam. And then once you take that, now you can demonstrate you know how to do this, and that's where these new opportunities are going to emerge.
Got it. Got it. I think that answers a lot of questions about how do I get started with PMP. I guess there's no background. Someone asked this question at the bottom that says, okay, they don't have a tech background. Will that really hamper their chances, or how does that influence?
Yeah, and I mean, in fact, one of the things you're going to discover when you get your PMP is it's very agnostic
Yeah.
relative to the industry you're working with. So there's many people who get this PMP certification that have nothing to do with tech, right? I mean, you think about it, you're working at SpaceX and you're going to launch one of these big rocket ships. I mean, yeah, there's some tech involved in that, but really the domain you're operating in is completely different. So there is no expectation that you are in a technical domain or any domain, really. All these practices apply across every single industry and organization. Now, I did notice too, as scanning, there's lots of great questions, by the way. Thanks so much for everyone taking the time to kind of throw these questions. The Q&A makes this a lot more engaging. So a couple things. When you get your PMP certification, you do not get it for life. You have to renew it. You renew it every 3 years. Okay, and how do you renew it? Well, you're going to demonstrate that you're investing yourself, you're learning, you're giving back to the community. There's different things. These are called professional development units, and you're going to have to report those to the PMI. In fact, part of when you started, you said, hey, this is going to count as part of the learning credits that you can use for your PMP. So you will need to demonstrate you've got some of, you've invested in some of this training. Another question that has come up a few times is, what is Agile covered? Yes, Agile is covered, but we don't go super deep into it. It's like, yep, here's one set of techniques and practices you can apply. It's called Agile. Let's learn a little bit about it, but there's so much else to cover that if you really want to get deeper into the Agile space, the PMI has the Agile Certified Professional as a path you can consider.
Got it. I think a lot of questions around how do I get started? What should be their next step as a project manager or a career path? A lot of them say they don't have project management experience. What should they do in that case?
Well, if you don't have it yet, a couple things you might want to explore. First, of course, get the certification. It's going to be a way in which you can show your interest, your commitment, and that you've got this foundation of knowledge. But other things you can consider, look, there are projects happening all the time. Okay? Now, definitely the larger projects tend to get more sort of recognition, and organizations sort of tend to kind of, spend money and budget on that. But there's lots of things going on just even in your function area. Talk to your boss and say, hey, is there a project I can kind of start learning a little bit about this? It doesn't have to be huge. It might be just a short, 2-3 month kind of project. But as long as it's got sort of definitive start, end with outcomes, that's a candidate for project management. So, work up a lightweight schedule, capture requirements, organize the people, track progress. So there's lots of ways you can start strengthening your skills and get some of that necessary experience to help you as you pursue your project management career.
Great. Some of them are asking how would they be able to get new job opportunities or access new job opportunities after a PMP certification?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so a couple things there. And the good news is you're going to find this actually pretty effortless. You just type in LinkedIn or Indeed or Dice or wherever, the word project manager is a keyword. And I think part of you've done some of this in the past. I mean, you got hundreds of thousands of job listings, right, that emerge. So there's lots of work out there. In fact, I think I saw something from the PMI that basically said that there's only 1 or 2 people available for every 8 to 10 project manager jobs. There's so much demand that if this is a place you want to get into, I don't think you'll find any difficulty finding opportunities.
Got it. And oh, someone is okay. In India, how is PMP useful at the age of 57? Because here corporates do not recruit or do not prefer people who are aged 50 plus. Okay, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. That's actually just sort of a decision these organizations making. It's unfortunate because I think obviously at your age, you've got a lot to offer, a lot of experience. I think one thing organizations often get concerned about, particularly in the latter portion of your career, is that they often feel that people don't want to invest in themselves anymore, right? Because they kind of think, hey, I'm going to retire in a few years. What's the point? Why continue to do this? So that makes organizations a little hesitant to bring on people that are in the latter stages of their career. One way you can address that is say, hey, I'm still investing in myself. Look, I got my PMP certification. Like I want to have a long, rich career even past this point. That might be another way to kind of help those organizations maybe feel more comfortable about bringing in someone with that amount of experience.
Got it. Got it. And a lot of them are asking about how costly is the the PMP exam. How much would they have to pay and all of that? I think the best place for that is the PMI website.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they'll put it into the currency that you're more familiar with based on where you're living. So yeah, that's the place to go. It'll have sort of the latest and greatest cost. It is an investment. I'm not saying it's certainly not free, but I think it's manageable. And if you're interested in this as a career path, I think it's a small investment to make relative to the returns you'll get on this over the course of your career. Let's see. Now, one question I see a bit, and I might have, highlighted this. This is a intensive, comprehensive exam. So it is about 4 hours in duration. For many of us who have been working for a number of years, we probably haven't had to take an exam or certification, and certainly not one that long in many, many years. So you are going to have to prepare. A course is a great way to do this. This is going to kind of walk through all the content materials can be covered in the exam, give you ideas, practices you can apply, but you are going to have to prepare. And this is not something you can take. There are some certifications, if we're doing a session like some of the Agile certifications, good news, many of those you can just take and then boom, you got your certification. You do a 2-day training course and you can take the certification pretty easily. This is not that type of certification. You are going to take a course, you're going to have to prepare, you have to take practice examinations, and then when you successfully completed it, you've got something to really celebrate.
Correct. Absolutely. And some questions around how is PMP different or same? Is it the same as operations management in MBA? Or another question that came in was, does it have some overlap with quality management as well?
Yes. Okay. So a couple questions in there. First off, let's answer the easy one. Does it deal with quality? It absolutely does. Quality is a really important one of the process knowledge areas that you're going to be spending time on when you're focusing on project management. Now, in other areas of your operations, can you use these practices? Absolutely. Operations area have many projects often, so they will have project managers working in that space. These ideas, these concepts are going to apply. And even if you're not necessarily working as a project manager, you are undoubtedly going to be asked questions. If you're managing budgets, it doesn't matter if you're managing a project budget or an area of functional areas budget, you're going to want to be able to track and forecast how much you've spent, how much you're planning to spend. So this PMP is going to give you a lot of skills to help with those kind of questions, managing people, managing schedules, managing scope, all the things that come into, just getting work done.
Yeah, right. Okay, 2 more questions about what is the time that someone should invest in? How much time would it go in studying for this PMP certification? And then another question around time. Someone has already finished their training. What should they do next if they have finished their certification training?
Okay. Well, a couple things. I think in terms of what to expect, I would offer, if you take the certification course, once you finish that, then I would suggest you apply your project management skills. You would say, when do I want to take the exam? I probably need 3 to 4 weeks to kind of take what I just learned and kind of review it, go through some practice exams, give yourself a target date you're working towards, give yourself some milestones that you can use to track your progress to that outcome. What would a milestone look like? Well, I finished certification class. I want to take the exam in 4 weeks. Each week, I want to take a practice exam up to the point that I'm going to take the real exam. Okay, those are like little milestones you can use to track your progress. Hey, life happens. There might be some reasons you couldn't do that. Maybe one week, maybe work was busy at some family events. You had to shift that. That's okay. Use that as a place to kind of track your progress and hold yourself accountable. If you've already taken the class, what I offer when I'm kind of teaching this class is I encourage people to look, come up with a plan that you can take that exam within a month of completing your training. Because if you wait too long, it's going to atrophy. You're going to forget some of the things that you learned. So try and take that exam as close to completing the training as you possibly can.
Got it. Got it. Great. One more question on this, and then I think we'll wrap up for the day because we're nearly at the end of the session. Okay, so how is PMP different from other project management certifications, especially the Prince 2 certification?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we did a webinar on this a while back, didn't we, Aparna? So a couple things to think about. Prince 2 is very strong. It covers a lot of the same principles, ideas, maybe slightly different way in which they structure their framework. Prince 2, a little more prevalent in Europe. So if you happen to be, on this session, you're in Europe, one of the European countries, you might want to explore Prince 2. However, what I can tell you is the PMP is sort of the granddaddy. It's the big one. Most organizations are going to look for either a PMP or Prince 2, or maybe just a PMP. So you'll probably get a little bit more traction with a PMP, but it doesn't mean Prince 2 isn't valuable. It doesn't mean Prince 2 can't be another way in which you kind of address getting your project manager certification needs.
Got it. Thanks, Bryan. I think that addresses most of the questions here about how to get started, what the next step should be after training, how should they go about career opportunities, and then I think how to prepare for the test. I think we're pretty much done. Or what should they do if they don't have background? How many PDUs are required? I'm not sure of this again. How many PDUs are required to renew the certification?
Yeah, my guidance would be go to the PMI site. There's a little that goes into this because it's not just you have to have, I think it's 60 PDUs over the course of 3 years. You get some of those PDUs just by being a project manager. So some of that's going to be satisfied just doing your normal project management activities. And then you have to do things like report. So if you have a PMP certification right now and you just took this course, you just got 1 PDU. So this webinar alone is a way in which you can get PDUs. Simplilearn offers lots and lots of these, so subscribe and you can probably knock out a large number of PDUs, but they also have to be in different areas. So you got to kind of go to they have a whole website where you can submit your PDUs, but also learn about what's required to manage your PDUs.
Got it. Great, great. I think that addresses most questions, Bryan. Thank you so much for your time today.
Many questions. Yeah, people are super engaged. This is great. Thank you so much, everyone. Another great session. Thank you for your time. Same
here, Bryan. Bye. And also, I'm just going to launch 2 quick polls about asking you guys to rate the sessions. Let us know how you liked the session, and also, whatever your expectations were of the session that you gave us in the beginning, those were fulfilled. So it was great bringing this session to you. So maybe just let me know your thoughts about how you liked the session. And towards the end, I'm going to be launching the certificate poll. I'll also open up the chat for everyone to, I think, engage with Bryan a bit. Yeah, right. So towards the end, we'll launch the poll that asks for your full name. That's where, we'll collect your names for the certificate. So make sure you stay for another 5 minutes. Yes. No, not yet, not yet, Subrat. On the poll, not on the chat. Yeah, great. Cool. So that's the rating poll. Thank you so much. At least a half of you feel that you loved the session. It was great bringing you this session. I also hope that most of your questions were answered. I'm going to be launching the poll here. Please, I'm switching off the chat, so you won't be able to respond on the chat. Please use the poll to answer to enter your full name and submit your entry. So that way we are able to send the certificate with your name on it. Okay. Certificate is definitely important, but I also hope you understood what your next steps are in terms of getting the PMP certification, becoming a project manager. In case you missed some portion of the session, we also stream this live on YouTube. So if you can head on to Simplilearn's YouTube channel and watch this right away. Or in case you want to watch the recording, you will receive it in the next couple of days. Now, about the slide deck, we don't send the slide deck per se because we are as such giving you the recording. So you could just take a look at the recording to understand that, right? Yeah. So I think all the other questions about whichever industry you are in, PMP certification is definitely suitable. If you're still interested in the course and you couldn't express your interest, I'm sending the course page on the chat. So you can check out the course details, and whatever questions you have, you can ask your learning advisor. They are the right person to answer this question for you before you take the training. Okay. Yeah, but if you are looking to get yourself certified in PMP, definitely this certification training is your route towards that. Yeah. Okay. More than 3/4 of you have answered the poll. I'm just looking for the rest of the 40 people to answer it. Yeah. Great. Name of the YouTube channel, Simplilearn. Joshua, not here. Please put your full name on the poll. There's an option called poll on Zoom. Please use that. Okay. So I'm going to stay around for another 30 seconds, and after this, I will end the session. So please make sure that you enter your name, and I mean it. I will not be able to extend it beyond a certain point of time. So please enter your full name because we get a lot of questions about certificates on our email ID. So we don't want you to miss out on the certificates. Make sure you use the poll right now, right? So why send an email when you can just put your name here in the poll very easily? Okay. Yeah. Another 20 seconds to go, and then I'm going to stop the poll. 15 seconds to go. 10 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to stop the poll right now. Great. So we've collected your names. Yeah, it was great bringing this session to you. I hope you found the session useful. And like I said, I really hope that you enroll in the certification training and also eventually get PMP certified because it's one of the most prestigious certifications that you can earn. Okay, so I'll see you again in another session. Until then, have a great day to people in the US and the rest of the world, people in India. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.